Let's talk about some of the big movers of the day. And let's talk about Norwegian Cruise Line. Shares sliding there. The company expecting to lose more in the first quarter than Wall Street had initially anticipated. But Norwegian executives still beating a positive drum about record bookings over the last several months. Here's what CEO Frank Del Rio had to say on the earnings call.
We simply don't see any weakness. As I mentioned in my prepared remarks, we've seen very, very strong near record booking levels dating back to November. And, it's our view that as long as consumers have a job and the labor markets remain strong, that they'll continue spending on the things they normally spend their money on, including vacations.
So Dave, Norwegian, just the last of the travel names here to really report strong demand. The company also highlighting that in the month of January, a record month for bookings on the cruise lines. We talk time and time again how consumers are strapped right now. They're pulling back on spending. Travel experiences certainly seems to be one of the main areas that isn't feeling the effects of that, at least for now.
Yeah, it's really interesting to start this show talking about Target and how consumers are cutting back on apparel and some of the basics of food. I mean, it's just really surprising to then see Del Rio also talk about 87% load factor in Q4, leading to what he says, and this is a direct quote, continuing through the first quarter of 23 as we have already achieved 100% occupancy in the quarter, leading to return to historical levels beginning in the second quarter of 23. They believe capacity will be 19% above pre-pandemic 2019 levels this year. So while investors weren't thrilled with that report, that really comes down to cutting costs, fuel, labor, food, things like that are really impacting Norwegian, but that demand is not showing any signs of letting up. We thought cruises would really be the lagger in the travel industry, and they were for quite some time because people had that hesitancy to go back, still had some fear built in around COVID, but everything you heard from Frank Del Rio suggests that people are comfortable and are booking cruises. Again, can they sail to profitability in 23? That remains a question because investors really not impressed with this report, despite the demand, which is an interesting surprise.
Yeah, certainly. And even you were mentioning some of those impressive numbers. The revenue per passenger in the cruise day was 23% higher than it was in the same period in 2019. So pre-pandemic, that comparison there, very, very strong report here from the company. Booking volumes have also accelerated in the recent months. A wave season is what the company attributed that to. Winter holidays, the end of March. Certainly a lot of the promotions demand was there. We'll see whether or not it hangs on. And you and I have had this conversation time and time again. And it's always where it seems to end when it comes to that consumer demand. Yes, right now, they're willing to pay those higher airfare tickets. When it comes to some of the airlines are willing to pay on the cruise lines. When does that change? And at what point will consumers not be willing to pay those higher prices? I think that's the question everybody is asking at this point.
I'll tell you, just anecdotally, as someone who just returned from a vacation, same spot in Mexico I've been going to for more than 10 years, I have never seen this place 20% as crowded as it was over the past week. Easily 75, 80, if not 100% more packed every single destination I ever went to, restaurants, bars, markets. Never seen the hunger for travel anything like it was. You know, what I had to do was talk to some of these people, and I don't think it's really, people always tell us, these CEOs, about the shift in spending from goods to services. It really is a priority change coming out of COVID, and talking to some of the people on my packed flights to and from Mexico, they've just changed their priorities in terms of how they spend. They believe they need to spend that money on experiences. And that, I think, is what COVID really changed in the consumer, is how they want to experience life. And they are willing to fork over some bucks. But nonetheless, Norwegian hammered on that Q4 report. Need to sail to profitability in the months ahead.
They certainly do. That is what the street wants.